Welcome to Yankee Chronicle. I'm your host, Elizabeth D'Orazio, joining you for the next 2 weeks right here from Main Street, New London at the First Baptist Church. This historic community has really entwined itself with the history of New London. You may not know that there's a connection between this very parish, that's right, and the institution of our very own Colby Sawyer College. We're going to hear all about these fantastic details and not just the historic impact of this church, but also how this community lives their faith every day amidst the pandemic and won't let anything stop them from reaching the community that they love to serve. This week we'll visit with Charles Glidewell, the pastor of the First Baptist Church, who will tell us about this church's history and the ministries they have in place. We will visit with Nancy Allenby and Cindy Johnson from Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners and one of the many ministries that they support. And then we will visit the plans for the Sunapee school renovations once more and see what's up to date. But first, these messages from local businesses that rely on our support. That's right, when we frequent local businesses, we are a shot in the arm that keeps them going during this pandemic.
Simple solutions in a challenging world. Let Echo Communications make your life simpler. From the beginning, creating design through the commercial print process and ending with custom mailing, all easily coordinated in one place. Echo Communications provides simple solutions in a challenging world. One place, many solutions. Learn more at echocominc.com.
At H.R. Clough and Kearsarge Heating, we sell, install, tune, and repair heating and cooling systems and deliver your fuel oil and propane. But we're much more. Now is the time to have a highly trained H.R. Clough technician perform an annual maintenance and inspection of your gas or oil system to help you avoid a failure in the dead of winter. Call now to set up an appointment. Call the H.R. Clough Company today. Over 4 generations of local ownership and dependable service.
Welcome to Yankee Chronicle. I'm your host, Elizabeth D'Orazio, joining you right here on Main Street in New London from the First Baptist Church. And this is a perfect time to hear a message of hope and mission of this wonderful community doing God's work right here in the center of town. I'm joined by Charles Glidewell, the pastor, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the history of this church and how they continue to work with us. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So glad to be doing this.
Yes, and what a timely message for all of us during the COVID pandemic and all the things that have really struck us in the world. We're really kind of shaken up. And tell us how this church has kind of weathered that and how through history it's been here for the community.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So we, like all churches, we're trying to figure out how to weather it. Fortunately for us, is we were already streaming our services online, so that helped. So we just continued to do that, though it was a little weird just talking into a camera and not having
right.
people, to engage with. But we are now meeting in person on Sunday mornings. As you can see, we've got the meeting house taped off. So we're socially distancing. People are wearing masks, and it's really been incredible to see the way that people have continued to contribute in a variety of ways. People have really stepped up. They know that it's a difficult time, and so really the people of our church, they've had other people in mind, knowing that people are isolated, that people are lonely. And so, for instance, our board of deacons, they've really stepped up their phone calling and letter writing and things like that. So it's been really wonderful for me to see. And as you said, you said history, and our church has a terrific history. To me, it's really interesting to read about. And what I've discovered over the years, this is my 10th year here, and so over the years I've done a lot of digging into the history of the church. It's very interesting to me. And in many ways, the history of the First Baptist Church is the history of the town of New London. You go back and read about one of the first items of business was they needed to establish a place of worship. And interestingly, in so many of your New England towns, the church is a congregational church, but many of the first citizens of New London were Baptists. They came up from Attleboro, Mass, and they ended up calling a Baptist pastor from Attleboro, Mass, as their first pastor, and then it went from there. So you have the establishment of the New Hampshire Baptist Convention. Joseph Colby very involved lay member in this church. He was the president of that, and he was reelected 2 times after that to serve as president. They had the first meeting right here in New London in his house. You have the New Hampshire Confession of Faith, which our church was instrumental in forming about what Baptists believe, and that actually has influenced Baptists across the nation. And you have the establishment of the New London Academy, which eventually became Colby Sawyer College. Again, Joseph's son, Anthony Colby, he was instrumental in that. And so you have a lot of history here, not only with the church, but as I say, it's almost completely intertwined with the town.
So it seems almost impossible to separate those two.
That's
and
right.
One of the things about becoming a pastor is you take the mantle from those before you, but it's not just you. When you sit in a church, you see the front of the helm of the ship, the pastor, but we have to remember the pews are really the ones that, do the work in the world. Tell us about how, like you mentioned your council of deacons, but tell us about the laity doing their work right now and some of the missions you have.
That's exactly right. Pastors come and go, and pastors, we have our place, but it's really the people who do the work of the church and who keep it going. And as I say, our church, any opportunity they can find to help, to serve, they do that. So we have people delivering meals. We have numerous community organizations that we support in a variety of ways. And you have people who are concerned about people, and so they will make phone calls, they will check in, whether they know them or not. They'll deliver food. We support people if it comes to that, monetarily, if they need help in that regard. And we also partner with other community organizations to help make those kinds of things happen.
As the weather gets a little bit cold, and we've been through the darkness of COVID, and now we're entering into the cold of winter when the seasonal needs come up, can you give us perhaps a Christmas message of hope?
Yeah. Everything that we do here, my ultimate hope is that people have an encounter with Jesus, because that changes everything. And to me, the message of Christmas, there's a great word that we find in the Bible. It's in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's a wonderful word, and it's not God. It's not, we find that word. It's not love. It's actually the word with. And I've been reflecting on that. That's something that God says again and again and again. He says to Moses, I will be with you. He says to Joshua, be strong and courageous. Don't be terrified. Don't be discouraged. Those are words we need to hear right now. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. He says that to Gideon, I will be with you. The psalmist, he asks the question, where can I go from your presence? And he concludes, nowhere, because God is always with him. We find this at the beginning and in the end of the Gospels. Jesus is identified as Emmanuel, God with us. And the very last thing that Jesus says to his disciples is, I will be with you even to the end of the age. And so that's what I would remind people of, is that God is not remote, but he's here and he's with us. And he's only a prayer away.
That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us. And if you're looking for a place to have a Christmas home this year, the First Baptist Church will be virtually streaming their services. Make sure you check them out online. This is a place where faith and community are intertwined with the story of New London. When we return, Nancy Allenby and Cindy Johnson of the Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners will tell us how they work with the New London Baptist Church to bring their good works to the community. And now a few words from our sponsors. Remember, every time we help our local businesses, it's a shot in the arm that keeps them going amidst this pandemic.
Warner's Main Street Bookends has been your community bookstore since 1998 and voted Yankee Magazine's Editor's Pick Must-See Bookstore. Bookends is a full-service store offering a huge selection of current fiction and nonfiction with children's book selection, toys, and games. Bookends has a huge card selection for all occasions, along with Main Street Marketplace and Gallery in the attached barn. 100% solar, Main Street Bookends of Warner is building your community one book at a time.
At HR Clough and Kearsarge Heating, we sell, install, tune, and repair heating and cooling systems and deliver your fuel oil and propane. But we're much more. HR Clough installs water conditioning systems to purify your water and add life to your hot water heating system. Now is the perfect time for one of our expert staff to evaluate your needs. For a free estimate, call HR Clough today. Over 4 generations of local ownership and dependable service.
Welcome back to Yankee Chronicle. I'm Elizabeth D'Orazio, and now Nancy and Cindy are going to tell us about the Kearsarge program that they work on.
Well, Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners was born out of a concern that community members had for our neighbors in need. And so our hope in forming this group of individuals was that we could address these needs by connecting them with the community, by connecting them with each other, so that we would build this web of support and be able to lift them from this state of insecurity and instability. Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners began with several individuals who came together who said, we need to find a group of people who want to discuss how we can move forward in wholeness within this community. Also recognizing that one of the particular organizations that we were associated with and working with, which is CREM, Kearsarge Regional Ecumenical Ministries, was experiencing individuals coming back to them on an ongoing basis. And I think that that's what concerned us, is that oftentimes these crises that are being addressed and met are only either the tip of the iceberg, or in some ways they're not really meeting the bedrock issues that these individuals are facing.
One of the things that makes Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners really special is our principles. We started out realizing that when some of the relief organizations were helping individuals with a need, they were able to give them some financial help, able to solve some of the issues. But what we were trying to design was a way to walk with people and to have an individual relationship with people, and to help them move out of crisis by supporting them, possibly on a longer term basis. So by not doing for them and trying to empower them, we tell them we will walk beside you for as long as you want or as long as you need. And one of the last values that we really are in tune to is the value of reciprocity. So as people move towards wholeness and towards stability, we look for opportunities for them to become the giver. There's 3 ways that we connect, 3 levels of connection. The first level of connection is one person to one person, neighbor to neighbor. The second way that we connect is to help neighbors reach an organization or organizations that can help support them. And the third way that we connect is by collaboration, which is organizations collaborating with organizations together helping neighbors. So the simplest form of that connecting is the neighbor to neighbor. And we have something that's called a flash mission, as in mission accomplished. And a flash mission is a single deed that needs to be done on a particular day. It usually has a limit of 2 to 3 hours to it, but it could be much briefer than that if necessary. Please visit our website. On the home page, there are 2 main buttons in yellow. The first one is Neighbors Needing Help. If you are a neighbor needing help, if you know of a neighbor needing help, please encourage them to go to our website and click on that button. The other yellow button on that home page is Neighbors Ready to Help. If you would like to see if there's something that you could get involved in with Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners, if you click on the Neighbors Ready to Help button, there will be a short list of ways that you can get involved, and you can simply check off the things that you might be interested in. The third way that you could help is by donating. There is a third yellow button that says donate. We are a 501c3, but basically every single person who's helping with KNP is a volunteer. And believe me, people are basically working full-time for the organization on a volunteer basis. Wonderful group of people. There is a very special alternative gifting opportunity that's coming up. We have a volunteer who is a watercolor artist, and she has painted a gorgeous winterized version of our KMP logo, and we're having those made into holiday cards. If you'd like to make a donation and gift that to someone in their honor, the cards will say a donation has been made in your honor, and you can donate right through that button and let us know if you'd like some cards so that you can use that donation as a gift for a loved one or someone who you think would appreciate knowing that about KMP.
Thank you, Cindy and Nancy. There are so many ways you can help local community churches and organizations this year. If you're looking perhaps to make your gift be meaningful, consider giving a donation to a local business or community partner that is doing some good amidst the pandemic. When we come back, we're going to hear a little bit more about the Sunapee School renovations, but first some words from our sponsors who we thank very greatly.
At H.R. Clough and Kearsarge Heating, we sell, install, tune, and repair heating and cooling systems and deliver your fuel oil and propane. But we're much more. With more frequent major weather events, don't say again, I should have installed a generator. H.R. Clough provides the best home generator systems available from Generac. Our highly trained personnel provide you a complete turnkey installation. For a free estimate, call the H.R. Clough Company today. Over 4 generations of local ownership and dependable service.
There's a big difference between a big box store and a LaValle Middleton building supply. When you're a local store, you need to compete with the bigger chains. So we've combined our purchasing power with over 300 independent lumberyard and home centers, and we've passed those savings on to you.
Our customers have grown up with our stores, and now their kids are shopping here with our kids.
We have everything you need for any home improvement project you can think of.
And the possibilities are endless.
If we had a motto, it would be neighbors helping neighbors build a community.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Elizabeth DeRazio, and this is Yankee Chronicle. We're going to check in with the Sunapee School renovation situation. Earlier in the year at the town meeting, the community voted down the prospect of renovations or an expansion. COVID-19 presents its own unique set of challenges, including the need for improved ventilation systems and things like that to keep children safe. Let's hear about how the community is proposing to remedy the situation.
My company works with municipal and institutional clients to help make their existing buildings more efficient from an energy standpoint and also from a facility use standpoint. On this project, we partnered with Banwell Architects, who had a history in working in Sunapee, to help look at the central school specifically.
It's an old building. There's just a lot more things we have to be diligent about. Whereas at the high school, you just kind of do a quick walkthrough and turn on the lights. It's a much newer building. Here we're checking the fire sprinkler system, where we've had a number of issues with that, especially given that in a building this old, we want to make sure that's up and running, there's no leaks anywhere. Going into the COVID world, there's a lot more to this building in that we don't have a modern HVAC system. So we're going around room to room, checking small portable air purifying devices, checking the filter status on those, making sure they're running, doing a lot of extra cleaning, which is a challenge in a building this old. We are able to use much newer technology at the high school, bathroom machines that really expedite the process. You go and basically pressure wash the bathroom. In a building this old, we can't do that without destroying the bathroom in the process. So those are just some of the challenges we're hitting.
And so our company, EEI, has a track record in working with similar facilities to streamline efficiency and get better use out of the buildings. I think a good example of this is the Keene School District. So Keene similarly had a failed bond vote about 6 years ago that would have eliminated many of the neighborhood schools and consolidated to a single large elementary school. Better controls, adding ventilation to all the schools, LED lights has been a huge energy saver. When we walk through the Sunapee Central School, it really is mirror to those Keene projects.
There is an ancient exhaust system in a handful of the classrooms, the oldest part of the building, the 1928 section. We have a handful of rooms in the lower level where they made some effort to bring in unit ventilation systems, like portable ventilation systems. They are fairly noisy though. They're localized. They're in those specific classrooms, and so unfortunately, even though there was some effort to bring some modern technology into the building, that's not utilized the way it should be.
So there's a constant flow of students right across the main drive. The students also have to leave the building to go to gym class and music class. So it's really not the most secure site with the amount of students that have to cross traffic areas as well as leave the secured main entrance. There were also some code issues that we noticed and some fire safety issues.
In terms of addressing safety, Mike alluded to the site safety issues. And currently, as was discussed, they're distributed between 3 buildings. So we were looking at a comprehensive approach to build an addition to satisfy the program that is currently being used by the modular and the Sherburne building down the hill. And so the addition would serve in that capacity. In looking at the deficiencies in the existing building and how to address those from a security standpoint, currently there is no secured vestibule with an administration directly adjacent to it. Students or visitors are buzzed in from the 2nd floor, and typically on our schools we'll have a place where a controlled vestibule where somebody is directly buzzed into an administration area before they're admitted throughout the rest of the school, which is currently lacking.
The stairwell goes from basement to top floor without a break. With modern conventional construction, we really want to have a fire separation between each floor so that if there were to be a fire, for example, on the 1st floor, the students on the 2nd floor could safely egress to the outside. That doesn't exist in this school. The school board really hired EEI because I don't think they want to see another generation of Sunapee students go through this building without ventilation and without a building that meets all of the DOE recommended safety and health and security concerns for a modern school building. With that in mind, we've outlined 2 approaches for the board to consider. The first is a comprehensive project which will solve all of the building's near and long-term needs. It would eliminate the modular buildings, have a small addition that would allow all of the building's day-to-day services to be provided at the school.
This is the parking lot side where you enter from on School Street, coming up from this side. As you can see, our addition is from here over to this side. This is the elevator that was constructed in 1986 in the original building in the 1920s, and this portion was built in the 60s. And to explain some of the features of the addition, we're forced to look at the overall building and find a comprehensive approach to make sure that we're using it in the most efficient manner, which means potentially moving some of the program around to different areas of the building. And one example of that is that they have some challenges with their existing cafeteria and are unable to make deliveries because it's actually below grade. So we're proposing on moving the cafeteria into the addition and repurposing the old cafeteria as a media space. Some of the other features of the program are providing a new nurses suite that will meet today's new Department of Ed standards. It's currently undersized, and we're also designing in features to meet today's health crisis in terms of providing an isolation room that can directly exit to the exterior. As I mentioned earlier, a new secured vestibule with an administration suite adjacent to that, and also providing additional classroom space on the 2nd floor in terms of a new music room, a new art room, an additional classroom. And by doing so, we're able to open up additional space in the existing building to provide some additional square footage that they desperately need for some of their special education use.
During the pandemic, the state put out guidelines that really recommended ventilating as much as possible. It's really hard to ventilate at all in this building. So as part of the solution, we decided to design rooftop units that would have energy recovery features that would both supply new fresh air and then use the exhausting air to preheat the incoming air, so it's both energy efficient and will bring the building up to current code. That would be our first most pressing issue in the building. If the comprehensive project is approved, it would bring everything into one house. It would have a central heating system that heats the entire campus as opposed to 3 separate heating systems that we have now. All of those systems are approaching the end of their useful life, which always raises a condition. Do we replace in kind and stay on oil, or do we look at alternative fuels? What we found is that in general, when looking in the fossil fuel industry, in a commercial standpoint, propane has been cheaper than oil, I believe 8 of the last 10 years. If I was going to go with a fossil fuel, I would lean toward a high efficiency propane system. However, New Hampshire has a unique program which is designed to make wood fuel more cost competitive for buildings such as these. So the New Hampshire PUC has a one-time grant, which would be in the vicinity of $200,000 to $300,000 if this school were to use wood. In addition to that one-time grant, there is also a thermal rec program in which each year that the school uses wood heat as their primary fuel, they would be subsidized an additional $20 per million BTU, which could equate to $10,000 per year every year that the building uses wood heat. Again, the grant is what makes wood heat cost competitive with propane. If that project can't win the support of the public, we've also presented to the school board a targeted project that would just deal with the major current violations in the buildings. So the school board is currently considering whether to bring forward a comprehensive project, a targeted project, or perhaps both, and let the community decide what the needs are and what they'd be willing to support for the future of Sunapee Central School. The unique experience of 2020 has shown us the importance of having healthy school facilities, as well as created an economic opportunity where borrowing money is at all-time lows. We've been able to obtain reasonable prices to do this project in the summer of 2021 and historically low interest rates to take advantage of. So all that should be considered when voters in Sunapee decide if this project is worthy of moving forward.
Thank you very much. Amidst the pandemic, every school system and every family is trying to decide how best to spend money and how to cut back on bills while still managing the challenges that face us. We know that Sunapee and all communities will work something out, and we'll look to see in the future how this works out for the Sunapee School District. Next week, we'll be back here at the First Baptist Church in New London to hear from a longtime member, Marion Hafner, and a recent joinee, Tracy Coverdale. They'll explain what they love about this church and how they grow in their Christian faith and love, and how they practice Christian service every day. Jean Cronin-Connolly, the chair of the Center for the Arts, will preview upcoming events. Lee Stalker will give us a tour of the brand new wing at Summercrest Senior Living. And we'll close the show with Dorothy and Andy Jeffrey from the Sutton Historical Society telling us about their mission for the year. Join us all next week, again on Yankee Chronicle. Till then, I'm your host, Elizabeth DeRazio, bringing you the best from the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region. Happy holidays.
At H.R. Clough and Kearsarge Heating, we sell, install, tune, and repair heating and cooling systems and deliver your fuel oil and propane. But we're much more. Now is the time to protect yourself from the potential rising costs of fuel. The H.R. Clough Smart Pay Plan offers you the very best price. Call and talk to one of the expert staff about the right plan for you and your home. Call the H.R. Clough Company today. Over 4 generations of local ownership and dependable service.
With a My Social Security account, you can request a replacement Social Security card, estimate your benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.